Hello, everyone. Give me 1 minute to get a little acclimated here. I want to make sure I got this clear. It's something I just want to mention here. Um, I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry. Maybe you weren't able to hear me, and if you weren't, I apologize. I didn't have my mic on. Give me 1 second. It looks like I do have my mic on. If you could let me know that you can hear me, I would appreciate it. If anyone's out there, thank you very much. Just wanted to mention something regarding. Give me 1 second. Let me double check if I am live. If I am live, and see. Appreciate it if anyone's out there. It looks like I am, but there. It keeps telling me that Facebook will not have me live. There's an error. Is there? I don't know. Let me double check again as we get a little acclimated here at first. And I can't seem to access it. Okay. It looks like it's there. It looks like it's there. It looks like it's there. And that's good. And it looks like it's everywhere. But hopefully it's on YouTube as well. And I'm not sure if it is actually. Because it says a minute ago I was on. Give me 1 second, guys. And if you can hear me, let me know. Thank you very much. I just want to discuss something that I think is worth noting regarding Pigman, what I intend with him, who he fights, who exactly he fights, and what it is that I'm up to, with him. Because friend and foe, I think have had mistaken it. So I just want to clarify. But give me 1 second. Let me go here. Let me go here and do something while I'm on here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second while I figure this out, guys. Give me 1 second. Thank you very much. And it looks like I am. Okay. And if you could hear an echo, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. But let me just do this while I'm here with you. I always want to put the link for Pigman. No matter what I'm doing here, I am, when it comes to Pigman, I am a salesman. When I stream, I definitely want to see if I can move and get a few backers. Thank you very much. And again, if you're out there, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know, and let me get back to here. Okay, I was able to knock that out. Hope you didn't hear an echo, and if you did, I apologize. Okay, so basically, I just wanted to mention one thing in particular. I don't know how long this will be. I felt compelled to mention it because recently, an ally, a friend, assumed that I went after Muslims. My comic kills Muslims and all that, right? And I get a little like, no, he doesn't. Pigman doesn't hunt down just any random Muslims. He doesn't do that. That's not what I do. That's not what my work does. That's not what he does. And then also an enemy, Larry Higgins, a piece of shit who has Niobe Comics, whatever that is. Tried to come after me today, and I had my first encounter with him, and I just told him to fuck off at some point. But he was trying to say that my comic kills Muslims, and therefore I'm a racist, and he shows mainstream comic book pros my comic, and they're disgusted and so on, and all that bullshit. So there's a little reference here to that to show you where I'm coming from and the point of it all. I'm not, to me, the Islamic enemy consists of Islam itself, the ideology, the religion that motivates jihad, and Islam's true believers. And the reason why we always discuss the passive followers of Islam the non-devout Muslims is because devout Muslims are monsters. That's why our culture wants to always talk about the non-terrorist Muslims, when the terrorist Muslims are the true believers, when they're the ones who actually echo Muhammad, who walk in his footsteps. That's the enemy. Islam as such, the religion that motivates jihad, and its true believers, who are technically speaking Muslims, yes, but the ones that PIGMAN hunts down and kills are Islam's true believers who murder innocents. If you're not murdering innocents, he's not going to come after you. He's not. But one thing that does also, as I noted on X, is that the more of these true believers that PIGMAN kills, the more he shakes the faith of Muslims. And that's important unto itself. And in his secret identity as Frank Warner, PIGMAN writes against jihad, writes against Islam. And so in that arena, it's the Islamophiles, it's the Muslim, the stealth jihadists who spread their propaganda and lies that he fights. So it's a double battle for him, ideologically and on the battlefield. So, I just want to make it very clear because I think some people mistake sometimes. And sometimes they say all Muslims are, evil and jihadists. That's just stupid. It's just not true. I got a Muslim family. I was raised Muslim. I never even considered, committing jihad. Um, Never did. Born and raised in America. I did have the stench of the religion with me. I mean, in a lot of ways, I was, surrounded by people who admired Hitler, who had a contempt for those outside the home, outside the, family, outside the religion, raised to believe that Jews were the scum of the earth, that women were unnecessary evil to bring male heirs into the world, and so on and so on. But the point is, absolute Transylvanian Jack. It is the religion that's problem, because that religion, Islam, motivates jihad. We can't separate the two, and that's why when anyone wants to discuss Israel and Hamas without mentioning Islam and jihad, they're talking out of their ass. They're pussies, they're cowards, and they're giving credence to jihadists. Anyone who wants to talk about Israel and condemn it without condemning the other side, they're mouthpieces for savages. That's what they are. So to illustrate my point here, I have a moment from The Infidel, from issue 1, from Pigman, which was the former Infidel comic, where Killian Duke, my stand-in in this universe, who is the cartoonist creator, who's the ex-Muslim, like me, cartoonist creator of Pigman, gets into a street fight with a group called Your Muslim Friends, who's a stand-in for CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, who's a stealth jihadist group. Nothing short than a stealth jihadist group, guys. They're here. They're part of Hamas, the part of Hamas's propaganda wing in America. That's why they're here. They're here to put on their suits and hide their, connection to Islam and jihad, and pretend that they're a civil rights movement who just wants to, protect Americans from undue discrimination. No, they are here. Their single purpose is to criminalize criticism of Islam and jihad, in particular, of course, of Islam. That's their purpose here, and it works in a lot of ways. I think they don't get as much play as they used to. This idiot, Bill O'Reilly, who was here, Bo Riley, used to have them on, talk about the Muslim folk in America. He's an imbecile. They're never ahead of the curve. They're always behind. Always, always, always. So anyway, Killian Duke gets into a street fight with Muslim thugs who are passing out free Qurans near Ground Zero. He takes exception to it. They get into an argument and they attack him and he kicks their asses. So it hits the news and he gets invited on Ox News, It's funny. In our world, it's Fox News. In Killian's world, it's Ox News. In Pigman's world, it's X News. You know, one further into the simplicity of it all. But anyway, so he has him on. He's talking about Pigman. So Bo Riley says, "You're ticking off a lot of good Muslim folks with your Pigman comic, Mr. Duke." And Killian says, "Outside of my family, I don't think many Muslims even knew about Pigman until now." And he goes, "That's right. You're of Albanian Muslim descent, which I am as well." And again, guys, self-insert, sure. You know, we want to get into that name calling, corny criticism of comics. Sometimes it's worth it. I mean, my reaction to 9/11 was the fact that I come from this background. I had familiarity with it. I didn't have enough knowledge, which is why I went and did the work. I studied Islam, read the Quran, reread the Quran, read every book I can get my hands on jihad and Islam and so on. Transylvanian Jack says they dishonestly conflate criticism of religion with racism. 100%, Jack. Um, that's why even that piece of shit, Larry Higgins, the Niobe shit comic, um, said, "Hey, you got a comic that kills Muslims. It's racist." Look at me. I was born and raised Muslim. It's not a race. It began in Arabia and spread across. It went to African countries. It went to Europe. It went to across the world. It's not a race. It's not ideology. But that's the way they can try to. And Muslims love the idea that they can call people racist because they know it's an ideology. They know it's a belief system, and they know also one thing. If you want to call it race, okay then. Take out all the whites of Islam, you lose a lot of numbers of your 1 point whatever you want to brag, right? 1 point something billion. Okay, the Turks are out. The Albanians are out, and so on and so on. All white Muslims are out. If it's a race thing, if Islam is race, okay, your numbers have diminished greatly. So again, let me just read this a little. Killian Duke again, my stand-in in Pigman. He's an ex-Muslim cartoonist who creates Pigman post 9/11, and he gets into a street fight with a group called Your Muslim Friends, who's a stand-in for CARE, the stealth jihadist group in America. And here he goes. Again, he says, "You're taking off a lot of good Muslim folk with your Pigman comic, Mr. Duke." I try to word it the way Bill O'Reilly would. And he says, "Hey, Hamilton, how's it going?" "Cool. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well." Um, so he goes, "Outside of my family, I don't think many Muslims even knew about Pigman until now." So Bo Riley says, "That's right. You're of Albanian Muslim descent, which clearly influences your story. So tell us, who is Pigman?" And he goes, "Pigman is an ex-Muslim who decides to take the war into his own hands after seeing Washington's pathetic response to 9/11." He goes, why the pig motif?" He goes, "Well, since Islam hates the pig, I figured a pig skin clad superhero is the last thing the enemy wants to face." Um, that came to me like that. It was a eureka moment. Not just the pig motif, but the pigskin leather to wrap my big, brutal anti-jihad, vigilante in pigskin leather to exploit the Islamic enemy's bigotry. It's funny, but it's true, and it works. And I even have Muslims bullshit themselves and try to bullshit me by saying, "We're not afraid of pigs. We don't care." Bullshit. If they eat a burger and you say that was made with pork, they would put their finger down their mouth and try to puke it out. They're irrational about their hatred of the pig, and the more Muslim they are, the more irrational, and that's why it works. That bigotry, that Islamic bigotry, is more extreme in Muslims. Um, hey, Art. Art says, "You put effort into learning about Islam, but how do you feel about irreverent mockery of Islam?" I don't. I mean, I think anything goes. People are reverent about Judaism, about Christianity, about Buddhism, about Islam. I think anything can be and should be, mocked. Let people deal with it on their own in their own way. Like right now, right? Um, Jesus Christ Superstar. They have the Cynthia Erivo, that a gruesome actress playing Jesus. They do it because they can get away with it. They don't do it for any other reason. And because they speak about it being brave or something, that's when you have to mock them and say, "Oh, okay, you're going after Jesus. Play Muhammad, and just do that. Show us some actual bravery." So my point is, in terms of, but how do you feel about irreverent mockery of Islam? Um, because Islam motivates a war against us, I think it's necessary. Also, it's not just that I accept it and say, yeah, it's. I think it's necessary. This is a war against civilization, nothing less than that, on every front, culturally. As you mentioned, Art, the Saudis taking over video game companies, right? The Saudis now and the Qataris owning Miramax, the catalog, and so on, right? Um, Transylvania Jack says that also means Islam is on the table for mockery. LOL. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, but in general, I do agree with that, and that's the point. You know, anyone and everyone mocks Judaism. And who was it the other day? I think Crowder or someone was trying to say like, you better be careful mocking Israel and Jews. But that's all we see on X, on social media. In movies, I mean, Jews are mocked. I mean, movie about Moses that Christian Bale played as a savage. Just stop. Just stop bullshitting, guys. Stop pretending that criticism of Jews and Judaism is going to get you in trouble by in any serious in the way that criticizing Islam does. Meaning, in comparison. Yeah. Transylvania Jack says the Gulf also owning sports events is a problem. Absolutely. It's the normalization of all this. It's the whatever the fight, the mixed martial arts thing, and they take it as a given. These guys like, hey man, it's good. Money's money. No, money's not money. No, money's not money. Don't normalize these savages. Don't give them a foothold, and they're more than willing to give them a foothold for money. Period. That's it. Um, there are a lot of whores out there, and they pretend that they're just being open. No, they're whores. There was a piece of shit golfer who was saying something along the lines of criticizing the American Golf Organization, whatever it's called. I don't even know golf, but and trying to hook up with the Saudis to make a good. It's like, what? You're critical of this, but you're going to hook up with savages who still have beheadings in town squares, like ISIS. What's the difference between ISIS and the Saudis? The Saudis do it on official capacity, capacity without much, condemnation. That's the difference. That's about it. There are savages, and they always tell us every so often there are these magazines that come out published by the Saudis to tell us how good the Saudis are. And Trump stupidly plays along as well, and his followers do as well. That whore Tucker Carlson does as well. He ends up in Saudi Arabia, sitting across from his soulless twin, Piers Morgan, arguing about Israel. It's like, what? Why aren't you condemning the country that you're in? The country that 15 of the 19 hijackers were from on 9/11. Anyway, let me just keep going, guys. So why the pig motif? Killian says, well, since Islam hates the pig, I figured a pigskin-clad superhero is the last thing the enemy wants to face. And then, let me get this here. And then he goes, okay, so Bo Riley, standing for Bill O'Reilly, says, you have to appreciate that with a superhero named PIGMAN, you have to appreciate with a superhero named PIGMAN going after Muslims, he goes after jihadists. And this is what I often say in real life whenever people try to tell me that. And again, it's friend and foe who both sometimes assume that I go after, that I'm going after the random Muslims. Like, Pigman is not going to go into a random mosque and kill everyone there. It's retarded. It's stupid. He wants to focus on the killers, on the assassins, on the mass murderers who take Islam's jihad seriously, who take Islam seriously. That's who he goes after. And again, by doing that, he demoralizes these Muslims who look up to jihadists, and they start to think, maybe we're not what we were told we are. Maybe we're not going to be victorious. They keep getting taken out. And Pigman takes out full Islamic terrorist groups. And that's, if I were to have a criticism against Israel, it's like, guys, it's almost 2 years after October 7th. Well, Hamas should be obliterated. There's no excuse for that. To hell with the world. Take care of your business. That's it. You have to do that. Have to. So that's the one criticism I have. It's not about the bullshit, the starvation, all that. It's getting down to business and obliterating that threat. And then warning Fatah and all the other terrorist rats, you pull the same shit, you are obliterated as well, and so on and so on. That's it. We want to live in peace, and we're going to destroy you if you try to kill any of us again. So that's the one criticism I have. Get on with it, do it. And I know that they have an inner left as well. Israel, they have these, anti-Israel communists in their government, and they're always siding with enemies, the way they side with enemies here in Europe. But it doesn't matter. You have to take care of it. Those in power right now are not the left, so they got to take care of it. Anyway, so this is a crucial moment in terms of my issue today. Why I'm making a video today. He goes, you have to appreciate that with a superhero named Pigman going after Muslims, he goes after jihadists. He goes, okay, fair enough. But it's inevitable that your work will be seen as an insult to 1.5 billion Muslims. I've heard that 1.5 billion times. And in terms of there are 1.5 billion Muslims. Now they say 2 billion. In how many years? I don't think so. I think they're pumping up the numbers. I think there are a lot of people leaving Islam as well, which is not a story that's being told by Muslims or by leftists, by the media. They want to keep a lid on that. But anyway, when they talk about that, right, they want to talk about minority status and also tell us that there are 2 billion of them. Which one is it? No, which one is it? Anyway, I can go on about that, but an insult to 1.5 billion Muslims, I've heard that 1.5 billion times. Your average Muslim is morally superior to Muhammad. They're individuals who may or may not be a problem. Organized Islam is. And while I am averse to using any other term than Islam to describe Islam, I allow myself this one slight deviation in terms of describing the enemy, and that is this. Islam is evil as such. When it's organized, it's even worse. It's even more dangerous. And by organized, I mean this. Terrorist groups, Islamic dictatorships, bloggers, activists, stealth jihadist groups, our media members who are Islamophiles, and so on. Presidents who were Islamophiles, like Bush and Obama and Biden. Because I think the Islamic enemy could have collapsed in a lot of ways just by us defending ourselves properly and without helping them in any capacity, without telling ourselves that they mean peace, that Islam means peace, and so on. I think it would have collapsed in the modern era. I think it would have. But we keep bringing them in and saving them from themselves, from their own conduct, from the consequences of their own self-destruction. So yeah, I allow myself that one slight deviation, and only in terms of discussing the global threat. And the global threat consists of, again, not just state Islam, not just quote unquote politicized Islam, individual bloggers, activists, street rabble, like the rioters, Islamic rioters. Again, the stealth jihadists who wear suits and go on CNN and talk all the shit they can, from the Young Turks, the pieces of shit. Cenk Uygur, by the way, I think was a Muslim, then was an atheist for years, and now he's back to being a Muslim after October 7th. But I think he's an atheist Muslim. He's a sick, twisted, bloated rat who lies his ass off and who screams and sweats like a pig about how they're targeting babies. It's preposterous. Hamas targets babies and slaughters them. That's who targets babies and slaughters them, and they have no problem with that. They only they only pretend to project that evil onto Israel and go rage filled about it. It's like, and also they need an outlet, meaning they know that Hamas has done all these things, so they're like, oh my God, it's horrific, but I can't say so because I have to project all of that onto Israel and really sell myself that it's actually happening from Israel's end. I also think there's a problem with Israel, besides the fact that they haven't obliterated Hamas yet. I think there's a tendency from some Jews to really try to go out of their way to prove that they're better than the scum of the earth savages in Hamas. It's like, guys, you don't have to prove that. Of course you're better. Fuck the world and whatever they say. You don't have to try to prove that you're better than the scum of the earth. You don't have to do that. Just defend yourself and do whatever it takes to hold the world. Do whatever it takes. This is your citizens and they need protection. None of us will. None of us can. Especially those who want you to fail. But the point is that you have to stop trying to sell the idea that you're better than the scum of the earth. Transmitting Jack, he is horrific. Cenk Uygur, a scum liar. He constantly lies. And also the young Turks, the Turks try to exterminate the Armenians. They killed over 1 million prior to World War II, prior to Hitler's Holocaust. That's considered a Holocaust and an actual genocide. And Muslims will deny that genocide, will deny the Armenian genocide, deny the Holocaust, and then project, a genocide and a Holocaust onto Israel. These are genocide deniers, Holocaust deniers, and they project it onto a country that is defending itself. Again, in their mind, in their lack of mind. All these rats, from Tucker Carlson to Joe Rogan, all these scum are talking about genocide, right? They have zero problem with what's happening. They're anti-war, right? They're not anti-war. They're anti-counter-war. They're anti-counter-jihad. Any kind of efforts of Israel and now of America to defend itself is considered an act of war. Any kind of, Tucker Carlson, that piece of shit, was flabbing up, and he was saying, it's World War III. If we attack it, it's World War III. And he kept saying it, and that fat pig, that drunk, that lowlife, Steve Bannon was saying the same shit. And when the truth hits, and it's like, oh shit, that was a good thing that Iran didn't get nukes, they can't celebrate it because they were on the other side, and they don't even come out and say, we were dead wrong. They don't do that. They go on to the next thing. And then that rat, Tucker Carlson, interviews the president of Iran that no one knew existed. There is no president of Iran. There's the mullahs, there's Ayatollah. There's no president. There's a guy, a bitch that they sent out to the public. All right, bitch, go out there and don't fuck up our story, okay? We got our propaganda. Don't undercut it, and go out there and talk to them. And Tucker Carlson knew that he wouldn't get the truth out of him, but he interviewed him anyway, thinking he's doing something that no one else is doing. Yeah, because no one knew he existed, you ass. Anyway, so there's a little what I was trying to discuss here in terms of who PIGMAN is fighting, what he's fighting. It's important for readers to know, even those who haven't read it, going in at least, to say, okay, I'm not going after random Muslims. I don't do that. Not in my work. And surely not PIGMAN when he hunts down jihadists and kills them. He kills those who murder. That's the ones he kills. He kills those who murder. He doesn't go after the other ones. So as this conversation goes, Bo Riley says, hold that thought. Now, in order to bring in some balance, meaning we have the truth, now we'll bring in some lies, which is fair and balanced. It's like, no, you can't get a lying rat bastard and a truth teller and pretend that you're having both sides. You get the truth and liars. That's both sides, these days. No, you get Cenk Uygur and you get Douglas Murray and pretend that they're comparable. No, 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 they're not. There's a journalist who tells the truth about the situation, and then there's a scumbag propagandist who's cheering on Hamas. He'll pretend he's not, but he is. To go as hard as he does against Israel, that means he's speaking on behalf of Hamas because Hamas does the same thing. So Bo Riley tells Killian, he goes, hold that thought. Now, in order to bring in some balance, here's a representative of your Muslim friends, a group looking out for the Muslim folk in America. For those just tuning in, 3 of its members were involved in a scuffle with Mr. Duke last night. Welcome back, Mr. Kaiser. He goes, thank you, Bo, for giving me a chance to counter this. And Killian says, Mr. Riley, your surprise guest is part of a stealth jihad that's working to further weaken America's response to jihad, and your network is helping them appear legitimate. And Bo Riley says, you watch him, Mr. Duke. He's a friend of mine. And he goes, I'm really sorry, Jose. He goes, Soze. He goes, double apologies. Please continue. If anyone has seen The Usual Suspects, Kaiser Soze, this guy's name is Soze Kaiser. And he's evil, propagandist scumbag, duplicitous. That's why it says double apologies. So that's a little pun in there. And then here's the guy. He goes, the first thing that comes to mind about his comic book, about Killian Duke's comic book, Pigman, is how unoriginal it is. Muslim terrorists? How cliche. And Killian says, only in real life. I've had Muslims tell me that. It's so cliche, you have Muslim terrorists. I'm like, yeah, we do have Muslim terrorists. And it's only cliche in real life. In fiction, it's rarely seen anymore. What, last time we saw, like in a pop movie, True Lies, maybe? We actually had Muslim terrorists in True Lies. That's about it. Like in a popular movie. So Killian says, Mr. Riley, okay, only in real life. Sorry. 1 second. And then Soze Kaiser, the opposite of Kaiser Soze from Usual Suspects, goes, Bo, I cannot believe you have him on your show. Have you read his comic book? To the Muslim mind, and I do not exaggerate, Pigman is felt to be the equivalent of 9/11. And Killian's like, what? Wow. I've had Muslims tell me things like that. Not an exaggeration. And also leftists tell me, I have a blurb on one of my comics that says, you're the reason why I won't feel bad when we all die in a nuclear holocaust. My work is the reason why that person won't feel bad that we all die in a nuclear holocaust. That's madness. Madness. So then he plays the victim card. He goes, Bo, this is the last time I come on your show if this is how I'm to be treated. And Bo Riley wakes up for a second. He goes, with all due respect, equating Pigman 9/11 is one of the most boneheaded things I've ever heard. You get the last word, Mr. Duke. He goes, thanks for having me on. People can pick up Pigman #1 at certain comic book shops or online. And I'll just say, yeah, you can pick up Pigman actually at Fund My Comic. I just wanted to clarify that. Anyone has any questions or comments, please chime in, man, because I think it's worth noting. I do think it's worth noting this idea that here's a first appearance of Pigman. I'm going to cut this off for a second and give me 1 second, guys. I just wanted to, yes, thanks, transmitter chat. Yeah, Kaiser Soze Kaiser. I think it's fun. And also, again, a duplicitous guy, right? Coming off as something he's not. And playing the game. And also he calls him Jose by mistake, goes Soze to correct him, which I think is pretty funny. 1 second. Transylvania Jack says their go-to argument is that Muslims being fought in media is constant and cliche. It is rare, though, 100%. It just is. I mean, it's just a fact. It's not a common thing. I wish it were. And were it a common thing, we would be in a far healthier place than we are today, both America and Europe. And even the Islamic world. I mean, look, it's a lie that there's a contingent of Muslims fighting the extremists. Bullshit. Bullshit. Uh, they know, Muslims know this, that they're the hacks within a religion. Most Muslims, that their jihadists are the true believers. They know that they're the true believers, that they have no way to counter them. They have no way to counter them. Wow, it got late really, really fast. Amazing. I wanted to do something, but I can't do it before midnight. Anyway, um, Art Hada says we need more people with bowls mocking these dishonest savages. 100%. It should be. It should be the point where we get a lot more complaints. Meaning, comics, not just comic books. I'm talking about stand-up comics, mocking Islam regularly, viciously, brutally, to the point where it starts to really offend average people. Like, oh my God, that's just too much. Good. Nothing's too much, not in a time of war. Who would have opposed mocking Hitler during World War II? Nobody. Who would have opposed drawing Hitler in World War II? Imagine if Hitler told and the Nazis told us, you can't draw us. All cartoonists would have done that. We are a weaker country, a weaker people today in general. There was a time where any enemy told us what not to do, we would do it in an act of defiance. Not just to be a contrarian, as some would try to say, an act of defiance. And then also, on top of this, you got some real rats in the chat rooms of Comics Gate, even sometimes. And Ethan's chat, right? He's drawn Muhammad again. About me. I could see if all cartoons were drawn Muhammad and I kept doing it, and as if it's something that everyone's doing. I could see that. That bitch, and he calls himself Leonidas of all names. 300, right? Accusing me and being bothered and rolling like, oh God, he's drawing Muhammad again. That's annoying to hear that, especially for the grief that I get. Um, oh yeah, yes, it did. Transmitting Jack. Looney Tunes cartoons mocked Hitler. You know, our enemies should be mocked. The Japanese. There was a video about the history of DC, right? And you got this fruitcake editor or something, artist at DC, bitching and moaning about us having caricatures of Japanese characters in World War II comics, and like looking at it like, bitch, they attacked us. They it was a sneak attack similar to 9/11. They deserved anything and everything that we can give. Mock them? I don't give a fuck. Mock them. That's it. Mock their looks. Mock them as a people. Then defeat them. And then turn them as an ally. All right. People can still mock them, but it's not going to be that fire to mock them that there was after that. And this bitch was trying to take it out of context, like as if Pearl Harbor was one of the most horrific attacks we've ever had, ever, at that time, ever, in our history. And if we can't mock those who did it, it's preposterous. Art says, I need to learn how to draw. My ideas are less intellectual, more crass, slapstick at Islam's expense. Hey, man, I respect that. That's fine. And again, it's funny you say that because sometimes people, I think they try to put on me sometimes that it's too intellectual, this and that. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I try to make it so. I think it's, I have an idea in my story, absolutely. I have a through line. I have a clear idea of what I want to do, but a lot of it's fun to me. I mean, it's fun taking out these scumbags in interesting ways, funny ways, roasting them, having Pigman roast them as he kills them. Um, it's fun. And again, I do get into the debates. Sure, I get into debates in courtrooms and television and comic book panels and stuff. And that's all, to me, that's all fun as well. And having the characters go at it hard intellectually. It's fun. You would not necessarily, I think so. You wouldn't necessarily, I think, associate Pigman with fun. But man, to me, It's I'm having a ball doing this. I mean, this is, telling a forbidden truth in an entertaining way. Hey, I love it. Absolutely. That's right, Transylvanian Jack. The Japanese mocked their enemies too, more brutally even. Absolutely, and they were, savages, flat out savages. The way they treated the Chinese, what they did to soldiers, is absolute savages. What it did to themselves. There was one survivor of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki who called the bombs gifts from heaven. And the reason why he said that was because he said, we were on a death road. We were on a self destructive road. We were on a savage road. There was no pulling us back. Those nukes stopped us cold. And look at where they came from after. And that's why, in a lot of ways, post 9/11, I think the Islamic world was begging for a nuclear enlightenment. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not just saying that for effect. If you nuke Japan for Pearl Harbor, you sure as hell can fucking nuke, Mecca or, Iran, um, for 9/11. And by that I mean the greatest sponsors of jihad terrorism. Without them, you don't have terrorist groups. That we had the moral right to do that. We were cowards. We wouldn't dare and all that. I don't give a fuck. We had the moral right to do that, to end jihad. That's it. Because not doing that has led to over 300,000 human beings slaughtered in the name of Islam since 9/11. Over 40,000 jihadist attacks since 9/11. We could have ended it. This idea that it's impossible to even think about bombing Mecca and the Kaaba. No. Pigman takes care of business in issue 2, which will be now in issue 1 of Pigman. He goes to the holiest of holiest places and does what we should have done. Art says, your writing is clearly knowledgeable but fun, a great mix of real critique and action adventure. Thank you, man. I really and try to do that. I try to integrate my ideas, my knowledge about Islam, all the information that I got into the story without beating the reader over the head. Try and again, I think it depends on the individual. Some people want more Pigman. I think did a pretty good balance between the Killian story and the Pigman story. And if you notice also, they do tend to reflect each other. You know, Killian does get in street fights. He does get bloody. It does get physical, and it gets even more so as the story goes. You know, at first I was gonna have Pigman be the battlefield thing, but he's also getting on television. He's also getting in debates and so on. I like that, and it's a slightly different form of it than Killian does. Slightly different. If you're here and you haven't backed Pigman, I would really appreciate your support. I really would. This story means a lot to me. It's, you know, I assumed after 9/11 that I would be in a competition with others who were making anti-Islam, anti-jihad comics. I was prepping for it. I was like, all right, good. I'll have to step up and challenge these guys and be challenged by them and so on. And it never happened. And that's not good. That's not good at all. The one great thing about, I think, the era, like in Marvel in the 80s, Walt Simonson doing the best he can with Thor, Frank Miller kicking ass on Daredevil, John Byrne on X-Men and Fantastic Four, these all-time greats pushing each other by doing their best work. I'd love that. I'd love that. I'd love, to be challenged in that way, make it, at least by something worthwhile. Now, I wouldn't want a copycat, meaning a brutal anti-jihad guy who goes after all Muslims, which it's still here. There was possibility about someone being inspired by Pigman while he's out of commission. I'll just put it that way. Who does that? Who does what the terrorist in New Zealand did? If you remember, guys, a number of years ago, could have been 10 years ago, maybe, a savage New Zealander went to a mosque and slaughtered average Muslims, average everyday Muslims, not jihadists. He walked into a soft target place and killed them. And I remember being condemned by that, by condemning him. I said that savage is the same shit as the jihadist he pretends to oppose. And I got blasted as a sellout, as you're still Muslim, and all that. And I also got on the other side some objectivists like, wow, I'm really impressed with that. It's like, bitch, you have no idea who the fuck I am. I'm opposed to all these savages, all violence, not just from this particular group, but that if you go and kill average everyday Muslims, you're a piece of shit who belongs in, jihad, in those groups. You're as savage as they are. You're not the right side of it, the extreme right of it. No, you're a savage. You belong with them. There's no difference. And we're fortunate that it only happened that one time, And of course, what happens is that, after that, like, oh my God, the Muslims watch out, they're all being attacked. No, it was one piece of shit who did it. And it's bound to happen inevitably because you're going to have some people who are going to snap, who cannot differentiate between jihadists and average everyday Muslims. They can't do that. They're retarded. That guy was retarded and a savage. And I got blasted for it. I got unfollowed. People who were on my Patreon stopped giving me money on Patreon. People who said they got my comics, I will never get it again. I was a little taken aback. And again, I was a little offended by some objectivists to try to tell me, like, they were surprised that I was able to distinguish and condemn him. I said, you don't have no idea who I am at all. I had a whiff of this growing up. A whiff, and that was enough for me. I left in my mid-teens, not for anything hard, not for anything like I was, no, it was as I always say, it's the fundamental dishonesty that's part of the religion, part and parcel, that is like the core of the ideology of the religion that offends me, that offended me as a guy who wanted the truth, who wanted to be moral, who wanted to be honest. That's what slowly but surely got me away from it. The stench of the dishonesty. It's unbelievable. Transylvania Jack says, art imitating life within the art itself. That's unique. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's something that, I felt would work. And I'll explain something after, Jack. Also, Jack says, two wrongs don't make it right. It's as simple as that. I mean, really, it's just, but again, I remember also people like celebrating that guy. I'm like, that guy's a savage. He slaughtered random people in a mosque who may have nothing to do with anything. I went to mosque as a kid. I would have been killed by that savage if I was, if he was in that mosque. For what? For being raised Muslim and brought to a mosque and praying Allahu Akbar? I deserve to be slaughtered for that? No. Most of us there would never ever dream of becoming jihadists. We're just victims of this ideology and brought to something and to believe that this is a good thing, and it's not. But there's a different form also. You got these Western Muslims who are of a different breed. They are morally superior to their counterparts in the Islamic world. Why? They've been edified by a superior culture. They are better human beings and more moral. They understand morality. They understand civilization. And of course, they will attribute it to Islam, which is a lie. But the point is that they are objectively a better people than their counterparts in the Islamic world. Objectively. They just are, morally. And again, they don't credit the West. But that's why I always do. It's like, if it wasn't for the West, I wouldn't be who I am. I just wouldn't be. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to know myself to the extent that I do. I would have been a cog in a wheel. I would have been part of this, collective. Never, ever, ever thinking about opposing it, So yeah, guys, I just wanted to let you hear that it's important to differentiate between, and again, I will criticize and condemn any Muslim who supports Hamas. Absolutely. And that's the bulk of them, at least the ones I see online. The bulk of them do. But are they worth killing? Absolutely not. Should they be killed? No, of course not. All you got to do in this war, truly, identify the enemy, Islam, and its true believers. Tell the truth about it over and over and over again until people are sick of it. And then act on that truth. Pummel these terrorist groups out of existence. Expose Islam as the evil it is. And there will not be anywhere near as many Muslims as there are today. Out of shame, out of failure, meaning their belief has been shattered because they saw, oh my God, look what happened to the true believers. They got obliterated out of existence. It's like, that's not what we were supposed to be victorious by now, We're 1,400 years into this jihad mission. What the hell? So that's the thing, by killing the true believers, by exposing the ideology that motivates this jihad, a lot less Muslims in the world there will be, a lot less. So that's part of the war also. But again, if you can't condemn Islam, if you can't criticize the ideology, the religion, we can't begin to defeat this enemy. We can't begin. So check it out, guys. I got a 9-page preview. I got this cover. It was my old cover, which I put in a different angle here. I turned it. I think it's pretty cool. I got 6 different covers. PIGMAN killing that jihadist, killing that jihadist with a death blow. The death blow, like Yaira, right? You got this Muslim pretending to be dead, playing dead. You got that Muslim in yellow. Of course, he's yellow. He's running for his life. You got this Muslim with his eyes open and his tongue out. And you got these guys with their Kalashnikovs and they're shaking. They're like, shit. His suit's bulletproof, but it hurts. And he's coming to get them. And I got this cover. It's the most popular cover of my campaign. PIGMAN in war paint. That's jihadist blood. I got this cover of the main characters, PIGMAN, Super Jihad, Killian and Salam, the twin brothers, and their counterparts here. I have this one. It's basically PIGMAN vowing to end jihad forever. That's his goal. However extreme it is, that's his goal. It was meant to be a death blow. That's right, Transmit Jack. That trailer, I think, crippled not just Yara, but I think the Ripverse. It was so bad that people, I think even Eric's guys were mocking it. It's like, what the? They didn't want to be part of that. They were embarrassed by it. It was so bad that the first day it made $1 million, remember? And then it limped to a few $100,000 after that. That took months. That's not by accident. The release of that killed, I think, any kind of fake push, meaning people had read ISIM already and were like, shit, that shit sucked. But let's see, maybe people were still willing to give it a chance after that. It was like, wow, that's even worse. It was so bad. It was meant to be a death blow. And Rifa, young Rifa, I think he's the musician guy, had a hilarious song that I guess he removed. I don't know, copyright something. Maybe he was struck. I don't know, but it's hilarious. I have it on my computer. I saved it. I think it's great. PIGMAN with the tombstones of the Twin Towers vowing to end jihad. PIGMAN just in a dramatic shot there. And then this one. And I also have my PIGMAN t-shirt, which again is September. I wonder if you guys can see the arrow here. September 11th, Twin Towers. 9/11, 2 dents there for a 3, Flight 93. Also 1993, the first attack on the Twin Towers. where they killed 6 people and they bombed the basement, the Blind Shake. Um, that's another story. Andrew C. McCarthy, a conservative who writes for National Review, prosecuted the Blind Shake, who was behind the first attack on the Twin Towers in 1993. He put him in prison, right? And he knows all this. He knows the ideology, he knows, but he always fucking wants to compromise. And I found out, later he was a customer in my brother's restaurant. And then I saw him at Florida. It was me and Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer and Andrew C. McCarthy were having an online debate about Islam and Islamism and all that bullshit, right? And of course, I was siding with Robert. It went on for a little while, and then the culmination of that online debate was to end at the Freedom Center, the Restoration Weekend in the Freedom Center, David Horowitz's Freedom Center in Florida. And I was invited to be part of that event. I was a guest of David's, and it was great. Went there, and the main reason why I went there was to witness the final debate on, is it Islam or Islamism, that bullshit term that we say in order to not say Islam. And I was just hoping that Robert could take him out finally. So I'm awaiting the event, and I'm told by the moderator, "Hey, do you want to be part of this debate?" I was like, "What?" Because I was a fan watching that debate, And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." And I was about to be part of it, but I found out years later, 14 years later now, this past May, that it was David Horowitz who told, because there was some games being played. I think they wanted to buttress Andrew C. McCarthy's side with another debater. And then David said, "Hey, add Bosch to Robert's side." I love that. I love that I learned that, because I didn't know that for years until recently when Robert told me on a live stream we were doing. So we go there, and I knew Andrew, again, my brother's restaurant and so on, and a little personally, but we wrecked them. To be blunt, we wrecked them. With what? With the truth. And that's where I delivered my what ended up being the line of the night, I gotta say, because it got applause and a lot of laughs, a lot of applause. And again, I didn't intend it to be funny, but looking back, I guess so. Each of us get 10 to 15-minute segment, each of the, me and Robert, and then Andrew C. McCarthy and this Baroness from the UK, who, I got to be honest, she I believed understood the issue, but she was being told she didn't quite understand what the situation was. It was an interesting night, but anyway, when I went up, at one point I said, in World War II, we didn't talk about radical Nazism or radical communism, militant communism, and people just started laughing. And then I said, if we did that, we'd be looking for moderate Nazis the way we're looking for moderate Muslims now. And then I got them, real nice applause. And Robert also echoed that in the Q&A, which was hilarious and Andrew knew at that point that it was over. We got the crowd on our side, and nothing they said warranted that or anything. And it's funny, I saw Andrew after, and he said, "Hey," I said, "Hey," so they were selling books, right? So I'm walking around this room, and he goes, "Hey, I'll tell your brother that you gave me the old Bronx, cheer," which is hilarious. I haven't spoken to him, years. He got a little better at one point where he was advising Rush Limbaugh about something. Rush Limbaugh, I think, had him on or something, and he was talking about Islam as such, and then, of course, deviated from that and started talking about Islamism, Islam point two, 2.0, I think, like Daniel Pipe Stream, as they call. Um, Overall, he means well, but you know, he knows better, and I can't stand those who actually know better to limit, to put a little buffer on the truth. No more buffers, guys. No more buffers. No more Islamic totalitarianism, the bullshit that objectivists use. No more radical Islam. No more Islamism. Enough of that. Enough. Again, to me, it's preposterous. It's like saying radical Nazism, totalitarian Nazism, as if it's not already totalitarian. Um, Transylvania Jack says Rippaverse fans couldn't tell how bad the stories were until one of them became live action. That's hilarious. It's true. They were like, oh my God. It killed any momentum that it had. Again, it didn't have momentum really because again, once I read and once people read, I was like, oh shit, this sucks. This is what it's going to be. That's it. But again, then they got some new writers. So like, well, let's see. Chuck Dixon's here, Mike, Barron, so on. Maybe he's going to, and it doesn't matter. And again, I told Mike, I love Mike, but I said, Mike, if you created him, maybe I would be interested. But it's not your character, and it's work for hire and so on. So I just don't have any interest in that. But let me go through a little more of my campaign, guys. I'm always looking to get some new backers. I always am interested in getting more backers, always. So I got the 6 covers here. You can get them all. I wanted all pack, $310. It's all 6 covers. You get the index card, original drawing of Pigman. You get the trading cards, 2 of them here, and I guess not showing up now. I gotta fix it up. You also get a digital copy of Table for One as well. That's right. All right, I'm waiting for Islam 4.0. I hear we get female imams and LGBT friendly mosques in that update. My God. I remember Daniel Parish was talking about that. Islamism 2.0. I was like, enough of this shit, man. And the worst thing about Pipes is he knows his stuff intimately. And he's still dreaming of a moderate Islam. God damn it, these, I guess, tears are. I guess you guys see this on your end as well. I'm assuming with just a question mark. I gotta, I guess, replenish this thing, unfortunately. But yeah, guys, if you haven't backed it, I would really appreciate your support. Okay, it popped up here now. Okay, good. So I got all the rewards. I got also, as part of my campaign, my 2009 book is 128 pages. It's 9 by 11, not by accident, square bound. And I thought I ran out of them recently, and I made a move recently, and I found at least, 2 boxes? I think 2 boxes, a nice chunk of them. So I put them as part of my campaign. Pigman's first print appearance, which makes it noteworthy. I moved recently and discovered that I had a few boxes left of the first print appearance of Pigman, Propaganda. I gotta fix that. God damn it. I put Propaganda as Propaganda. From 2009, which is a collection of drawings that I made as I studied the Islamic enemy and wrote my story, but wanted to get some cartoons of Pigman out in the world in the meantime. There were also a handful of essays that I wrote in it. Yeah. There was one essay. It was called Islam versus Peace. That was a long essay with a lot of aphorisms, just these nice little throwaway lines and puns that I had a lot of fun with. And I sent it into Breitbart, Big Hollywood. The editor was John Nolte, and Andrew Breitbart loved Pigman. And I got to work at Big Hollywood, and at least 5 articles that John Nolte rejected. You know, I had a real problem with him. And he had a problem with me. I sent in an article called Islam versus Peace. He goes, we can't publish that. I said, why not? He goes, yeah, but Islam versus Peace. I said, yeah. And that's what it is. It's not Islam is peace. It's Islam versus peace. And I have all these funny comments. So it's in this book. It's pages upon pages of, again, short little sentences. Let me see something, guys. Let me give you a little taste of it, actually, of what I'm talking about. let me see. Where is it? It is here, and I could read it off. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Where is it? Okay. I'm just read off here a little. Bush wages war the way the enemy wages peace. Infidels saw the light of Islam as reflected off of Muhammad's sword. Islam means peace is bliss. Ignorance means see no Islam, hear no Islam, speak no Islam. Islam means peace, and our best, brightest, and most honest are in Washington, D.C. Islam means peace, and our politicians are as brave as our soldiers. Our culture is playing hard to get it about Islam. Islam means peace, and the Muslim leader who most embodies that is so on. That's fun stuff. So let me get this back. And then guys, if you have any more to say, chime in. I think I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to clarify that who PIGMAN is fighting, what my comic is about, and again, it's friend and foe who are, I think, mistaking what this is about. So it's worth noting. It's worth having a video about it, at least going in. I think it's important because people have their own assumptions. Who knows? I mean, sometimes I don't know how I'm perceived, how my work is perceived. I don't know. They think PIGMAN is like, okay, it's just a brutal beast going through the Islamic world and killing everyone. It's just not the case. He's an intellectual also. He was writing, against Islamic Jihad for years before he became PIGMAN. He was ex-Muslim, so this is the end result, meaning even an intellectual, even a guy who was fighting ideologically, understood, especially after 9/11, when he heard Bush say Islam is peace. Nah, he's like, I gotta take the war into my own hands. I gotta take the war into my own hands. These are pussies who are in charge, and I have to take it into my own hands and take out this enemy. So guys, thank you very much. I'll leave you with one last thing. I'm going to play Shanath Anjeti's video. Hope you can hear it. Thank you. Thanks for checking that out. Until next time, everyone, thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your time and your questions and your commentary. Art, Transylvanian Jack, and Hamilton. I guess it's a little late, but I felt an urge to clarify what PIGMAN is, why he does what he does, what the situation is, because again, both friend and foe, I think, again, friend is mistakenly assuming something, but the foes are clearly going to lie about it and try to see it, PIGMAN, in the worst light possible. He's an ex-Muslim who takes out jihadists. Hey, Jeremy. You guys take care. You be well. Until next time, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to what PIGMAN actually is and not what people say he is or assume he is. It's important. It's important to go in with, at least having a decent idea. So it's been about an hour. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Until next time, thank you.